What's up, guys? Actually, recording is higher quality. What does that mean? Why did I get that weird alert? Anyway, oh, jeez. Hey, the studio is almost done. I know, I've been talking about it forever. Whatever. Costs money, bro. I think I did upload a picture actually on Instagram, so you can check that out. I'm just in an uncomfortable spot right now. Not vibing, dude. Not vibing on it. It's because I'm like this far off the wall because I have to let these rest right at the bottom here, and then you'll see it. I think next episode next week. I think is it next week? Yeah, I think next week is the one I'm dropping with the new look. So I think it's next week. Anyway, all right, well, no, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. My bad. My bad. But cool thing is, if you guys missed any episodes, I know like holidays just wrapped up and all that. So if you missed any episodes, you can go back and listen to them. Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that. And you can even go back like a year, like 50 episodes ago, and find an episode that you missed, and then you can listen to it and comment on it. And apparently, that's a thing. So, but I'm here, and lots going on, man. God, there's a lot of negative stuff. A lot of negative stuff happening in the world. I was talking to my buddy the other day. I was on his show, and which I think airs. I got to find out, and I'll plug it. And we just dived in. I think it was one of those more of those like he needed to get it off his chest, about all this ice crap and all that. By the way, guys, I have to say, and I mean this. I mean this. I have to say, ice is out of control. It is so out of control. I'm going to mess with this real quick. Don't mind me. It's just crazy what's happening. And it's scary. There's a lot of people that don't know what that means and all that. But we're not going to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it right now. We're probably going to have to talk about it, but we're not. But I was thinking, I just had to say that because it's coming. We're only a couple weeks into the new year, and I was thinking about music, because there's a lot of good music that's coming out. There's a lot of really cool artists that are starting to put out some new stuff. God, I look really white today. I think it's the stupid light, bro. Oh, anyway, there's a lot of people putting out some really cool music, and I'm excited about that. There's potential for some really big collaborations. I'm having technical difficulties left and right, and all that. And it got me thinking about live music because on the concert level, like Bruno Mars, who I love, and I would like to see him live. I'm not going to pay the fee, the ticket prices for that. It's not that high on my list, but I think he put on a good show. So he's making this grand tour with his new music. But it got me thinking about like live music in general, but going back to more of a local level, a more small artist level. And it's been one of my favorite things is when I have traveled over the years, like to go to Chicago, Boston, Philly, Colorado, Canada, Miami, and finding like local artists, Texas in particular too, since I've been here for the last 15 years, is the local artists and the different pockets of music and the different music venues and the people behind the music and all that. I mean, obviously Texas is a big country, Texas red dirt country, huge. And I've met a ton of local artists that way. And I've worked with a lot of artists over the years because prior to my current role, as you know, I was in the bar scenes and the clubs and the music and all that. And I did a lot. I did a lot for local music for a pretty good period of time, from putting together certain Wednesdays, we would have music Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays at multiple different bars, and really letting these creative, unique artists kind of get out there and for people to hear in Frisco, and Irving and McKinney, Prosper, Little Elm, things like that. Being able to not only connect with those local artists and get to know them and kind of follow them, but some of them becoming really good friends that I still communicate with today, that I don't get to go see play live as much, but some of these artists that have been on the show and then watching their progression as they've gotten out of this area and they've moved to New York, Nashville, or California and have signed with a label and are now doing things bigger, touring with other people, touring with Cody Jinks and things like that. It's been really cool. And I think that's one thing when you look at like the bar industry and all that, and I can only speak for the area I'm in. I'm not speaking across the country. But for the area I'm in, I've noticed, I mean, obviously the bar scene and the restaurant scene is taking hit after hit since COVID. But when you look at it from the local spot where you used to go see music, I'm looking at Frisco, and Frisco was becoming, and I think, and this isn't an ego thing, this isn't me trying to sound better than everybody else, like people like to throw around because that's all they hear. Um, it's I was a very integral part in what was going on in Frisco in the music scene. I wasn't the only person, I wasn't the only driving force, but I was definitely the flag waver for let's have live music in Frisco, Texas. And it's not to say that live music has never been in Frisco, Texas before Brandon Overa. That's not what I'm saying. But there was years, a block of years from God, I'm itching right here. I'm a mess, guys. Um, there was a block of years where I connected artists, with bar owners, with bars I was at, and created a music scene. Matter of fact, there was a Frisco music scene was a thing, a group of local artists and promoters, and I was on that board. They wanted to connect and help grow the scene in Frisco. I wrote about it for a publication that I used to work for, um, as a side hustle, who I believe is no longer around anymore. Who, in hindsight, you know what, we're going to leave that alone. But we connected all these local artists to really kind of showcase what was happening. And you had a lot of bars in Frisco that wanted live music. At the time there was Stands. It was a dive crappy bar. It stands on Main Street in Frisco that was kind of doing live music, but not as good. And that's the truth until I got there. Now it's something else. I forgot the name of it. I'm a horrible person because I can't remember the name of it. And I think they do music there, sort of. But we created, like, even after I left that bar, artists would go there. Hey, and it created this music scene. And then you had the Frisco Rail Yard, which had a kind of generic music scene until I was there and introduced this community of artists to them. And once I left, they continued it. Now you look at it, it's different. But we had other spots, and we all, I had a bar that I worked at, one of my favorite bars ever, and it was live music. It was Cheers. It was what you wanted from a bar. You had great cocktails. You had great craft beer on a small scale. It was 21 and up. Okay. So no kids whatsoever. 21 and up. It was not open Monday through Friday during the day. It didn't open till 3 or 4 o'clock. The only times it would be open during the day was Saturday, would roll in around 10, Sunday rolling around 10 for football. Open up at 4, shut down at 2. Midnight, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, depending on when the law was. Because at a time, we had to close at midnight in Frisco, and you could only be open till 1 o'clock. Then they changed the law to 2, which I did a whole podcast about that. But it was music, and I met so many musicians there. Some were just started there before I took over, and we grew them, and others I just met. And then we started to groove. And we would have music on Thursdays, music on Fridays, music on Saturdays. We'd have multiple bands. I had so many bands there, like the Missing Three, when my good friend Joey's there, playing. And you're talking like 4 or 5 piece, band up there just jamming out, all the way down to what I think is one of the best underrated voices I have heard in pure country music in the area, my good friend Prag Padilla. I love that guy. And when you hear him sing, like I just pulled out his CD the other day. You can listen to him on Spotify. I actually used one of his songs in my promos. He's got an amazing voice, man. Now, he doesn't get to go out and do it a lot now. And I'm getting to the reasons why I think, not just on his personal life, that's his own thing, but why I think it's hard for some of these artists. But he'll go on live. I remember during COVID, he'd just go on and just jam out. And I would watch him live. And we saw that with a lot of local artists. It created these like little concerts online. But we have so many different artists. Ryan Michael Galloway, just saw him, a couple weeks ago at Stewart's 80th birthday party. Great to connect with him again because he's an awesome guy. And he helped me out grow the Frisco music scene with what he knew, his equipment, his promotion, everything. And really cool to be able to connect on that because he's still doing his music thing. It's on a little timeout now, but he's still doing his music thing after all these years. And he's very much connected with a lot of songwriters. We had Sophia, come on now. Can't forget her. Sophia Anello, did a whole podcast with her. She's now, blown up. She's now in Nashville. I literally talked to her before she went to Nashville, and she's blown up over there. Whitney Raquel, one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. I absolutely love Whitney from the bottom. I always have. That's my girl. I haven't seen her in a while, although we just connected again on TikTok. But we do keep up with each other. She is a ray of sunshine. She's a beautiful woman, beautiful voice. She did the Radio Love Bus, phenomenal band, but her solo stuff and her voice, that girl is a star. And I think the only reason that she hasn't gone above and beyond is because she doesn't want to. She's in a happy place. But I think had she shifted gears and gone to this, that girl's voice is ridiculous. And she was one of the first. I will never forget this. It was my first year in Texas, and we went to the stockyards for the very first time. And we went to this bar called the Basement Bar. And that's exactly what it is. It's a little dive bar. You walk down the stairs below. There's no basements in Texas, but this is below, so it feels like that. Crappy bar, good drinks. And she started playing. And that's how we met her. We stayed longer, even though we were drinking pretty heavily at this bar. We were getting ready to go to the next one. We stayed longer at this bar because of her. We met, and we've been connected ever since. Started following her on social media. I booked her at every bar I've gone to, every bar I've ever worked at for booking music. I booked Radio Love Bus. I booked her duos. I connect with her. She's an amazing person. And you don't find that often. But things have shifted. And I believe that there are certain instances and cities that don't want that. Because the biggest thing that we argue about is club owners. I think one of my lights just went out again. And bar owners and managers who want to haggle you down. They want you to perform. They want an artist to perform for 3 hours and they're going to give you $100. They don't realize the dedication and the time and the setup and the talent and all that for $100. So I always paid my people very well. So I think that that's been a part of it is the pay. But I also look at Frisco for an example, who had a great music scene, as funny as that sounds. So much so that we did an event called the Whistle Stop Jamboree, where we connected 5 different bars with live music, a picking circle, sponsors, and everything. It was a whole day's event starting at 10 o'clock, going to like midnight. Amazing event. Packed it out. People were excited. I had a falling out with those people that were behind it. They weren't happy with the way that I was promoting it. They didn't like how I focused on the bars I was at. Well, why wouldn't I? And then we got into it. I think there was a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think there was both sides. I probably didn't handle certain conversations right. I know they didn't handle certain conversations right. We had a falling out, and that never happened again. The Whistle Stop Jamboree, unfortunately, and I don't talk to some of those people. But it was an amazing event that we executed. And I'm proud of that event. I'm proud of the work that everybody did on that. But Frisco as a whole, and the mentality behind Frisco, is they don't want that. They don't want local bands anymore. They want the big, shiny, and they want to spread that all across Frisco. And I think it is affecting the culture or lack of culture in Frisco. Sure, you can go see cover bands. This is an AC/DC cover band. This is one of the biggest cover bands, and we paid $5,000 to have them here tonight. 30 people in the band, and we're paying. But the guy with a guitar who writes his own music, who's got a story to tell, he's not as exciting as the Universal Studios that's going in down the street. He's not exciting as the concerts that used to be at FC Dallas. They ain't had a concert there in God knows how long. He's not exciting at the new music venue that's getting Leonard Skinner cover band and AC/DC cover band and Like Combs. That's the name of a band, Like Combs. It is a Luke Combs cover band. It's cover, cover, cover. So the originality of that music, the stories behind the music, the trials and tribulations that these artists went through, the voices, the unique voices, the connections in between sets with the audience, they don't care about that. And you got the bar owners who are already struggling, who are like, yeah, I just can't pay $300 to get 50 people in here, more 60 people in here. I'd rather, save that money and once a month spend $900 and get a big band in here with songs that people can get drunk and sing to. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of these cities. And that's why guys like, I believe like Prague doesn't go out and tour anymore, quote unquote, or do gigs anymore. He's got his own thing going on. But I believe part of that is because a lot of the bars that he used to play at around here, they ain't doing it no more. I'm not there anymore. I'm not booking these people, but that's not just why. They're not doing it anymore. Joey still does his thing. He doesn't have to do his thing, but he still goes with the Missing Three. He goes to the Brewery Three Nations, which is dope. And he'll hit up a couple places in Frisco and McKinney. And they do it when they want to do it. They don't have to do it, but they do it when they want to do it. But and he's been at the Rail Yard recently, which is cool. But it's not the same. They're places like the Rail Yard get the same band every week. Places like that I worked at aren't even there anymore. And some of like whatever's at Stands now, which I can't forget the name, they do music, but they've even cut back and gone covers or open mic night or karaoke or bingo in place of these stories. And even in the city, if you go to Dallas, I feel like it's even shifted there. The music scene's very different, and I miss connecting with those artists. And I think that the city, if you want to have culture, and a place like Frisco, which, let's be real, what is the culture in Frisco? What is it? Gyms and smoothie places and Dallas Cowboy headquarters and FC Dallas with an amazing stadium and a horrible soccer team. And now we got Universal, just build, 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 like the concrete jungle, but no culture. That's what Frisco is. There's no culture there because right now we're rooting the culture out. We're gentrification over in Frisco. We're icing it up legitimately. So there's no culture. But you want a billion, we got a $45 million park going in. We shut down downtown Frisco for almost a year because we decided that we wanted to change it. We want to throw some sidewalks in and make it walkable and throw some new trees in. And we're going to eliminate this build. What? We're going to kill. And what they did was they killed all those businesses. They killed the small businesses. They killed the places that had the music so they could put in something new and shiny. There's no culture in Frisco. Us is really culturally diverse. No, it's not. We got some culture. You barely have food here. I'm talking good food. And the good places that you do put there, you're squeezing out. So get over it. But those places don't exist. So if you want something unique, to go to the pretty downtown, to go to these new venues, man, you got to have some of that. Because I tell you what, I would much rather go to a bar, small bar in the corner with a local artist and just listen to some pure talent and hear a story and then start following that artist online. And then maybe I download his and her CD. Or for me, I'll order it. And some of these artists are actually pressing vinyl. So I got this guy, Ryan Berg, who's another one who's amazing and still out there doing it, but he's taking it to the next level. He pressed some vinyl. That to me, as a music fan, as a collector, as somebody that just loves the lyrics and the voice and the stories behind it, that's what I want. I want that music. I want that vinyl. And there's a ton of artists that I have been connected with since then. But I don't think there's not one person out there that is orchestrating the music scene in Frisco like I did and the rest of the people I work with. That's a fact. And we did it for years. And it was awesome. It was great. And now that void is there, but nobody cares because look at the way that Frisco has changed. But I see it in McKinney too, and I like McKinney. I'm not bashing McKinney. There's not enough places. You got Cadillac Pizza and you got some other place. And the great thing is Red Zeppelin, the vinyl store, they do concerts. So shout out to the girls at Red Zeppelin. They promote local, and that's a cool place to go see local music. And there's some really cool artists there. But you have to spread it out. I think about Chicago. I think about places in Detroit. I think about places when I went to Philly, and there's all these different pockets of music and all these different pockets of low-key cool bars where you could just walk in and hear jazz and soul and hip-hop and piano, string and acoustic. There's R&B going on. There's oldies, and they mix in the covers, but there's all these different pockets. If you walk downtown Frisco, you'll be lucky if you can find one place that's doing local music on a Friday night. If you go downtown McKinney on a Saturday, you're probably going to find local music at least at one or two places, but it's not this pocket of energy. It's bars and cool food and drinks, but it's not this music. And there's something about those stories that connect people, which is how these artists get here in the first place. And I wish that we could get back to that. I know that COVID was a big punch, at least in this area for it. And then the changes and developments and the bar scene and everything that came after that really shifted. I know everybody's like, oh, you can go to Austin to listen to live music. And I'm like, okay. But there's other places. Fort Worth does live music right. Whatever you may think of the stockyards and the new trend, thanks to Tyler Sheridan and all that's going on with the stockyards, there's live music at the stockyards all the time. There's live music in Fort Worth. You can go to Dallas and find live music. Don't get me wrong. And Deep Ellum was that place for a while there. And it's still kind of there, but it ain't the same. It doesn't mean that music's dead. I just think it's been, because that industry's been harder to really generate revenue from, it's difficult. I mean, but, I say that, and then McKinney's about to put in this mega amphitheater But that's not going to be for these artists that I talk about. That's going to be for these middle of the road artists. I mean, you're not going to get Taylor Swift there, but you could get Kelly Clarkson. You know, you're not going to get, Kendrick there, but you could get Bone Thugs and Harmony, Nelly, or even One Up. Even, maybe Pharrell goes there. I mean, that's the type of amphitheater they're building in McKinney right now. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Will that generate around it? Will it have kind of this spiral effect around it and bring some live music in? Because I do miss live music. I do. And on that level, and I really need to go out and see some of these artists. That's the great thing about going to breweries too, is because they are still supporting live artists. Tufts and McKinney always supports live artists. Roller Town, local artists. Roller Town in Frisco is actually leaning in on the bigger mid-range artists, which is cool. But I'm hoping that they can kind of swing in some local guys. But whenever you go to I've gone to some random breweries when I've been out of town that, number one, I didn't know the brewery. And I found some awesome artists that I still follow to this day and still listen to their music this day off that one time of walking into a brewery that I didn't even know. And I think there's something special about that. And I hope that we can get that back, because I would like to go out and chill and have a nice whiskey, lean back, and just have some people around me listening to good music. I think there's something special about that. Or be by myself and do it. So anyway, that's my music talk for today. I just wanted to kind of do a quick episode because I've really been thinking about it, especially as I start to talk to some of my friends again, and seeing what they're doing who were in the music scene, or I start to see some of my buddies that I've met that were local artists or in a band, and I start to see where they're going as we approach the middle of January, kind of what their path is leading into February, March, springtime, summer. Are they going to get back out there? Are they recording? I've got a lot of guys that are just recording right now. They're not touring or playing gigs or anything. So I'm curious to see what happens. But all right, next week, guys, 2 more weeks. We'll be back with, I'm here next week, but 2 weeks, new studio. I think I got a special guest next week. So come on back. Let's check it out.